Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Basel Pod. Sam Basel, joined alongside Jordan Laube and Owen Brown. And guys, it's been a while. We've spent a lot of the fall talking about football, previewing all 32 NFL teams, really getting into the first couple weeks of what has been a fantastic season. But now we are here, less than 4 days away from Super Bowl 60 between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. We've got a lot to talk about, including key matchups, what a win would mean for either team, either city, including some of the top players of each team. But first, considering it's been a couple months since the three of us were on a pod together, I wanted to check in. First, Jordan, how you been doing, man?
Good, man. Personal life has had a few roadblocks. My job was terminated at the end of October, and still looking for a job 3 months later. So if anyone is looking for business analytics professionals or anything adjacent to that, feel free to drop a comment or reach out to us at our Twitter handles. But other than that, we're doing great. Haven is 8 months old today, which is fantastic. She's almost standing on her own. She's going to be walking shortly. My wife walked at 10 months, so probably going to be 10 months walking for Haven. So 2 months away, I'm very scared. But other than that,
when is she going to be long snapping is the real question.
Month 11. Absolutely. Once she can stand, you can snap a ball, baby. But yeah, she's, oh man, like everyone says, like being girl dad is the best. And I'm not that I wanted a boy first, but I definitely want a boy. If I have no boys at all, I will be thrilled. But being a girl dad is the best thing. So hopefully both of you get a chance to experience it, because it has been life-changing, is cliche to say, but that's the right word for it.
Love that, man. And it's been a while, but a lot of changes going on in Tennessee with your Tennessee Titans. We're going to get into a lot of coaching changes once the season is over, once we start doing some off-season pods. But, just to get a little taste of it, what are your thoughts on Robert Saleh as the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. He's a defensive guy, and I don't think he really gets enough credit for what he did with the Jets defense. Of course, he was handicapped with the quarterback situation. Zach Wilson, and then Aaron Rodgers blows out his Achilles like a minute into his first game. But then he's also bringing over Brian Daboll, the former Giants coach, to run the offense, which I think is going to be great for Cam Ward. I'm excited to see that combo of coaches in Tennessee. And they have a bunch of cap space. So, assuming they don't whiff on a lot of their free agents the way they did a couple of years ago, I think that 2026 will be better than 2025 was the Titans.
Yeah, two former New York Jets and New York Giants affiliated people succeeding somewhere else in the NFL. Completely unheard of. No, but we'll be getting into some more of that later tonight. But first, before we get into our thoughts on Super Bowl 60, we wanted to talk about some awards. Tomorrow night, Thursday night, when most of you will probably be listening to this, is the 2025-26 NFL Honors. And Jordan, you have taken some time to give your predictions, your thoughts on who you think should win the award and who you think the NFL will give these awards to. Sometimes you align with what you think the NFL will do. Sometimes you differ, and we'll get into that. So take it away, Jordan, with your first award of the night.
We're going to go through in order. I don't think this is exactly how the awards are announced, but in the past, this is how we've done it. Start with Comeback Player of the Year and then make our way to MVP. Starting off first category, Comeback Player, as I said, Christian McCaffrey. I think he wins it, and this is who I would vote for. Over 2,000 scrimmage yards in a year coming back. I believe it was a torn ACL he was coming back from. But just an absolutely unreal year. He kept that 49ers offense churning even after George Kittle went down. Brandon Ayuk out for the year. Ricky Pearsall missing a good chunk of games. They were missing a lot of guys. Brock Purdy obviously missed time, and he was the guy that carried this offense to where it needed to go. Game in and game out, rushing efficiency and rushing explosiveness a little down, but he emerged as a receiver, and I kind of hope they're going to move him to the slot. Whenever his rushing ability comes to a halt and he becomes an average runner, move him to the slot, elongate his career by 3 years. Shanahan would find an awesome way to use him in that type of role. But as I said, almost 1,000 receiving yards, over 2,000 scrimmage yards. 17 touchdowns on the season. He was just electric all year long. I don't know if you guys have anything to add, but I think CMC is the clear winner of this award.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his stats, he had 924 receiving yards, which is the most that he's had since his third year in the league, which was the only season that he had over 1,000 receiving yards. And correction on his injury, he had bilateral Achilles tendonitis
Thank
and
you.
a PCL sprain in his knee, so he was really banged up last season. I want to say he missed the start of the year, and then he came back and then hurt his knee. So
Yes, that's correct.
it was definitely tough for him last year. I mean, the Madden curse had to strike again. But I mean, it was a really nice bounce back, and he was, really the only consistent guy out there for the Niners offense. I mean, Brandon Ayuk didn't play at all. Ricky Pearsall, like you said, was in and out with injuries. Brock Purdy missed time, and then Kittle missed time in the beginning of the year, and then of course he blew out his Achilles in the playoffs. But McCaffrey was there for all their games.
Yeah, absolutely. And those 924 yards that you talked about, that's 104 more than the next best receiving running back. That's Bijan Robinson. He finished the season with 820 yards caught through the air. So, Jordan, your offensive rookie of the year, our next award, is a guy that I feel like we talked a lot about in our preseason pod. So, please jump right into it.
Absolutely. Teteroa McMillan, I think, was not only the most consistent rookie, but the best rookie out of this offensive class. Ashton Genty, if he had a better offensive line, probably would be him because his yards after contact is nuts. I think he would have finished like 7th in rushing just with his after contact yards alone. I think he was really solid. You're going to hear some people saying Tyler Shuck should be the MVP, or not the MVP, excuse me, the offensive rookie of the year. I would agree if he had the production for 12 games or more. It's really a small sample size. We can't do much with it. Teteroa was a stud for the Panthers all season long, finished 15th in receiving yards on the year. I think it's got to go to him.
Absolutely. And then your defensive rookie of the year?
Yep, Nick Emanwari, I think is going to win it and would be my pick as well. And I didn't mention that earlier, but same thing for T-Mac. But Emanwari really unlocked the Seahawks defense and was a major reason why they were as disruptive as they were. In my pre-draft analysis, I wasn't really sold on Emanwari. The athletic skills were off the charts, but it seemed like he would take poor angles at times, couldn't get to the ball quick enough. That completely flipped for me after seeing him play for the Seahawks and playing in Mike Mack's defense. He was all over the field, breaking up passes, stuffing runs, getting sacks or pressures. He's just, and you've seen it in the playoffs. He has come alive these past 2 games. Is going to be a huge focal point for their defense against the Pats.
Yeah, and this is the first guy on the list that is actually going to be playing in the game on Sunday. So for you, I mean, especially when you win an award as a rookie and then you go play in a Super Bowl, right? How do you feel like you should kind of carry that into your performance on Sunday? Obviously, you don't want it to outshine, your desire for a win, but how do you kind of prove you deserving that award on the field?
I think he's just got to do what he's been doing. Like, if you his intensity during games, after games, before games, he is just one of those psychotic culture guys who you look at him and he's tapped. He's coming to take you out of the entire game if he can, within reason, obviously. But you take that and you wear it right on your chest and you say, yep, I'm the defensive rookie. Now I'm going to come show you why. And he's going to come downhill. He's going to make plays on the football. He's going to show why he deserved that award all season long. I don't think he's going to be thinking about it, but if he has the mentality I think he does, he's definitely going to show you why he deserved that award.
And then, moving out of the rookies, we've got your protector of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a new award going to the best offensive lineman on the year. Not part of the AP process, if I'm not mistaken. It's a panel of, I believe, 5 or 6 former offensive linemen. It might only be 4. But my pick this year, Garrett Bowles, left tackle for the Broncos, did not allow a sack all season long, allowed one of the lowest pressure rates on the season. Their rushing attack with 4 or 5 different guys in that backfield was stellar for a large chunk of the season, and he's a huge reason why He is the inaugural protector of the year. I think if Lane Johnson plays the entire season, it's going to go to him. But in my opinion, Garrett deserves it. He's my pick and should be the NFL pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that the voting is kind of removed from the AP and moves into, being voted on by former players. Could you kind of talk about, what you feel like that kind of changes for an award like this and whether or not you like that trend?
I like the trend in a vacuum right now because it's the first time the award is done. And if you leave it up to AP, there's not enough knowledge about offensive line play if you're just a casual person. Like, I played football my whole life, and there are still intricacies about offensive line play that I don't fully understand. I like to say I know most of it, probably no majority, but there's a lot of nuances that we just don't know as viewers. And I think AP voters, like, it would just be the same three guys being nominated every year. Penei Sewell is someone who everyone hypes up, and he's a great run blocker, and he's just an above average pass protector, right? So, but everyone will vote for him because he's the big name guy. And that's what I think the award would become. It would just become a popularity legacy content, kind of like linebackers and all pro voting. No one really votes for the best linebackers. They just go for name recognition, right? So having protector of the year and offensive line play, having the kind of not mantra, but the stigma that it does, I think it's really important to get a select committee to do it for the first few years, show the AP voters what their process is, and then move it to an AP process over time, I think is the best solution. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think logically that makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then this is your first vote on the overall awards list that I think your pick is aligned with how you think the NFL will pick it, but you did give a little bit of a caveat here, and that's for your defensive player of the year.
Absolutely. And just to let the record show, Myles Garrett is my pick, and it is definitely going to be the NFL pick. I mean, you could put your mortgage on it, and you're going to get some money for it, right? I do want to say, if Myles Garrett doesn't touch 20 sacks, I think Will Anderson gets it. He has an incredible film. Like, if you want to just go film study raw defensive line play, pull up Will Anderson, because he was awesome this year against the run, against the pass. He had the highest pressure rate, the highest pass rush win rate, had one of the highest run stop rates out of all defensive linemen, and he did it with out blitzes, without that many stunts, and he was going against a gauntlet of offensive tackles. With that said, breaking the sack record and having an insane pass rush win rate and pressure rate behind it, and doing it on a relatively low pass rush snap count. I think he did it in under 500 pass rush snaps. He broke the record on, which is just insane efficiency. It's got to go to Myles Garrett, and I agree with the pick. But Will Anderson has probably had a top 5 defensive end season we've seen, if you don't look at sacks, which everyone goes to determine how defensive line play is. If you look at the analytics and the actual tape, top 5 defensive line season by far.
Absolutely. And then your offensive player of the year is where you have a definite split. You feel like the NFL is going to go one way, or I should say the AP voters are going to go one way, and your vote would be somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And this isn't because the first guy doesn't deserve it, but Puka Nacua is most likely going to win this award. I am partial to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and the fact they're both in the NFC West terrorizing my team for the next decade, probably, it makes me very sad. But Jackson Smith and Jigba was so efficient and was a huge reason why the offense exploded as early on as they did. If you look at their EPA per play and EPA per pass, they were historic that first half of the season. And some of that dipped off because of drop in offensive line play. So Sam Darnold wasn't playing as well. The run game slowed down, so they didn't get those design targets to JSN the way they normally were early in the season. Seems like they're returning to form there. He's doing a really good job. He is a huge reason why this offense just exploded off the top this year and why Clint Kubiak's going to be the Raiders' next head coach. I would give it to him, especially given that they had one of the least efficient run games in the league and couldn't really lean on it. And the guys around him, Cooper Kupp is good, but he's aging. AJ Barner, Elijah Arroyo are good tight ends, but they're still young and developing. They didn't get Rashid Shaheed until midseason, and they barely use him in the offense. So to get the production he does with a good supporting cast, but not great supporting singular players, is just a testament to how dominant he is. But again, Puka Nacua had a great year, and I won't be upset if he wins the award.
Yeah, that's really tough because JSN has been a fantastic watch all throughout, the regular season, the playoffs. He's been great for my fantasy team. Didn't get me to the title, but that wasn't his fault. But your assistant coach of the year is a guy where, I feel like this award could kind of be a GM's worst nightmare, right? Because it's almost kind of another stepping stone for guys to get some recognition before becoming a head coach somewhere else. And obviously this guy's on his way to somewhere else, but he's got one more game left to coach in and get into that pick for us here.
Absolutely. It's got to be Clint Kubiak for the same reasons we talked about JSN and how successful he was. And this team really took a swing. Sam Darnold, end of last season, looked really bad. And they go out and make this splash deal for Sam Darnold and get rid of Geno Smith, who was good for the Seahawks. I know the Raiders turned into shit, but was good for the Seahawks the past 3 years. He brings Sam Darnold in, and Darnold was even better than he was last year from an efficiency standpoint. I know the run game was one of the least efficient and least effective in the league, but he did get the running backs involved. As much as they could. They had the lowest amount of targets in the pass game, I'm pretty sure, out of all running back groups. But regardless, when it was on, it was clicking. And he was a huge reason for that. Really got the most out of Darnold, JSN, and not that this would matter into the voting because this is done before playoffs, but led one of the best offenses on the best team, and now they're competing in the Super Bowl. I think Clint Kubiak deserves that Raiders coaching job, and he definitely deserves assistant coach award.
Yeah, absolutely. And then your final award, this is a very interesting split here. I know it's been a debate that we've talked about a lot at House Enterprise, but let's get into it. Your MVP pick. Well, who you think the AP voters will select, and then your vote.
Yeah. Do we want to do coach of the year first before we roll into MVP?
Yes, let's do coach of the year first.
Cool.
Because that's the big one.
Mike Vrabel's going to win, but Ben Johnson, I think, deserves a little bit more. Obviously, both teams went from worst to first. The reason why I would pick the Bears over the Patriots is simply because how poorly Caleb Williams was playing last year and even the first third of this season. And this offense helped transform Caleb into a maniac at the quarterback position. He avoided a ton more sacks this year, his completion percentage is low, but he had the lowest attempt rate from behind the line of scrimmage to up to 10 yards. He had the highest attempt rate on deep and intermediate passes, and the offense was way more explosive than it was last year. I believe they were top 5 in efficiency, top 4 in explosion rate, and they were in the bottom 5 last year. So he completely flipped and reworked this offense. And the Bears have been a laughingstock for a long time in the NFL. And the Patriots returning to glory. They've been there, they've been down a little bit, but they've been there before. I think story-wise, on tape, and team performance, I think it goes to Ben Johnson in my mind over Mike Vrabel, but Vrabel should win.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to get your thoughts on, potential Mike Vrabel win for coach of the year this year. Obviously, because you saw him coach for, I believe it was 6 seasons in Tennessee from 2018 to 2023. What did you see from him during his time in Tennessee that you feel like has been amplified in New England, en route to a potential Super Bowl and a potential coach of the year?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me was when he came to Tennessee. Of course, he's a defensive guy, and I believe it was going into his second season, they drafted Jeffrey Simmons, great defensive tackle, and he developed into this all-pro caliber player, and that really helped out a Titans defense that in that 2019, 2020 season, their defense was not that good. And I see some of that with Milton Williams and Christian Barmore on the Patriots defensive line and how good that they've been when Barmore has been healthy against the run. And Vrabel loves to play physically on both sides of the ball at the line of scrimmage, and bringing in Milton Williams to pair with Christian Barmore has really helped the Patriots in stuffing the run, and then that just allows their defense and their secondary to just play a lot more loose, a lot freer, and cause a lot more third and longs, and that helps out on the back end because they have Christian Gonzalez as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, now let's get into it.
Yeah,
Our MVP, obviously very contentious. Like I said, between two quarterbacks, it seems like one playing in the game this week, one just one loss shy of playing in that game. Let's talk about the two candidates, Matt Stafford, Drake May. First off, let's talk about Matt Stafford, his case, and why you think the AP will select him for MVP.
Matt Stafford has had a great season. He had the highest TD to INT ratio. He played against really tough defenses year in and year out, or not year in, year out, game in and game out, played in the toughest division in the entire NFL. And he just showed up game in and game out. And even though they didn't get the 1 seed, and even though they are a wild card team, I think there's a really good case for him to be MVP because of how he carried this offense, especially with all the offseason news. He's not going to be ready to play. He's got a back injury. It's going to hinder him throughout the season. He took hits all season long and delivered bullets to Puka, to Devontae, to Colby Parkinson, to Terrace Ferguson, to Blake Corum, to Cody Whittington. Like, there's so many guys on this team that he would just find in the worst moments. And I think the game that really sealed it for me, at least if I could pick MVP, and if I was going to pick Stafford, was his performance against the 49ers in the middle of the season. I think he made a lot of good throws on that tape, especially intermediate to deep area. And there's not many QBs who can do what he does without mobileness in the pocket and having to mitigate a not so great offensive line. Matt Stafford was just a killer for majority of the season and was my pick for MVP until probably an hour ago.
So your pick changed,
yeah,
sounds like, to Drake May within the last hour. Can you kind of go through maybe 24 style that hour for you?
Yeah, so it was I was doing research for the show, and I was like, in my mind I was, Matt Stafford's the MVP, and like I've dug into the numbers but not like at a really deep like comparison level. And the vibes just feel like Stafford deserved MVP for a large chunk of the season, especially when he went on that run. I think it was like week 5 to like week 12. He didn't throw a pick or something like that. I could have the weeks wrong, but there was a long stretch he didn't throw a pick. And I don't even think he had a turnover-worthy throw per PFF for about a 5-week stretch, which is very impressive. But then I started looking deeper into the analytics. I dug into more of the tape. I looked at efficiency, and my pick now, if I was voting today, would be Drake May. Just looking at kind of the base level advanced analytics, 87.8 PFF pass grade. I know people don't, put a lot of stock into PFF, but it's have to consider it. That would have been third amongst all quarterbacks and higher than Matt Stafford. 4.9 big time throw rate, 5th. 2.7 turnover worthy play rate, 9th. Almost an 80% adjusted completion rate would be 2nd. These next 3 are all first. 61 scrambles, 113.5 passer rating, and 8.9 yards per attempt, all first in the league. So you got some good baseline stats there. Now let's look at where he's succeeding. On 20-plus yard throws, 56.5% adjusted completion rate, 2nd in the league. 16.9 yards per attempt, 2nd in the league. And 132.7 passer rating. That's 1st and only 1 turnover-worthy throw, which would be 2nd. All solid. Historically, MVP over the past decade, whoever has the highest EPA per throw, EPA per play adjusted, all these efficiency metrics ends up winning MVP, which is why if you looked at it last year with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, you should have known as soon as the season ended, Josh Allen was winning the award. Let's dive into Drake May. Efficiency. 0.223 EPA per plus completion percentage over expected. Really complicated number. He was first. That means for every 5 throws he had, he was adding 1 point for his team. Adjusted EPA is even better. This takes away turnovers because sometimes turnovers are random and aren't actually bad throws. 0.322. That was first. His raw EPA per play, 0.313. Also first. A 10.8 completion percentage above expected. First. And then 55% success rate. Want to take a guess where he was?
First, second.
Second, yeah. Second. That was the only efficiency metric he wasn't first in. Then you put on the tape. And I don't want to, we'll get into it later. I don't want to hear any of the easy cakewalk schedule bullshit. Don't want to hear any of it. He was the tight window throws he was making, managing murky pockets, getting away from pressure, processing pre-snap adjustments. He was doing everything you want a high caliber quarterback to do. And he was doing it at a high and efficient level with a team that a lot of people didn't consider to even be contenders this year. And he went up with a 37, 38, 39-year-old veteran who's probably going to win the award. And he was right there with him and exceeded him at times. Drake May is my pick for MVP.
Yeah. That's a pretty compelling case.
Appreciate it.
If you have anything, do you have any holes to poke in a potential Drake May for MVP case?
I don't have any like big holes that I would poke. I will say that I think that Matt Stafford was definitely aided by having Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Of course, Stephon Diggs did have a pretty nice season for the Patriots, but I wouldn't put him on Puka's level right now.
People wouldn't even put him on Devontae's level either.
Yeah, true. And then for Matt Stafford, the injury that he had to play through this year that I believe he missed most of, if not all of training camp this year was an aggravated disc in his back, which isn't, like an easy injury to play through. So the fact that he was able to go out there, play every game, not miss a snap, and throw, I think it was like 45 touchdowns he had this year to just 8 interceptions. That was pretty impressive. And it's just a shame that we can't see these two guys in the Super Bowl. I think that would have been a really nice matchup. But of course, the Seahawks had other things to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be a very tight field, but definitely check out the honors tomorrow to see how Jordan did. Well, I should say check out the honors Thursday, depending on when this podcast releases, to see how Jordan's picks held up. But now let's get into it. Super Bowl 60, New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks. This is going to be a fantastic game, a rematch of Super Bowl 49 that ended in the now immortal Malcolm Butler catch, the infamous question of whether or not the Seahawks should have ran it. Obviously, the guys that, probably made the decision to pass or to run are not really, they're gone from this team. The guys who could have made that pass or run are gone from this team, and the same thing from the Patriots, right? This is a brand new look Patriots team from the one we saw, that was a part of that second half of the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick dynasty, now led by Mike Vrabel and Drake May, aided by guys like Stephon Diggs. And the big question surrounding this current Patriots team on their path to the big game is, whether or not they had a little bit too easy of a path to get there. Jordan, I know you alluded to it. Part of me, before I get into what you guys think, I think for me, I think you can throw all the criticisms about their path to the playoff, the easiness of their schedule. I mean, it's stuff that we saw, back when Tom Brady was the quarterback of the team, talking about how easy of an AFC East he played in back then, right? In the 2010s and the 2000s. But for me, I understand these criticisms, and context is always important for a team, playing in the championship, winning a championship. But for me, that context matters a lot more when you're maybe ranking them against other Super Bowl winners, right? Talking about, what were they better than the 2015 Broncos? Were they better than the 2011 Giants, right? In the context of this year's Super Bowl, I really don't think it matters that much. Like, I think every team is going to play against teams that have injuries. Every team is going to play against a team that, makes mistakes that were unaccounted for. And I don't really think it's worth, stripping the legitimacy of a Super Bowl appearance or eventual Super Bowl win just because they're playing against something that's, out of their control and, not really not really their fault. And I would like to add a caveat to that saying there are few people who root against the Patriots harder than I do. I have always grown up. I'm a Jets fan. I've been a Jets fan my whole life. I've always grown up hating the Patriots. And I am willing to say that the criticism towards the Patriots schedule this year is it has gone over the hill a little bit, in my opinion. But Jordan, any thoughts on, where the Patriots stand in terms of the caliber of their wins?
Yeah, I think it's a little, I don't want to say far-fetched, but it's definitely undeserved saying, look at their schedule. Look who they played in the playoffs. So they played playoff Justin Herbert. They played playoff CJ Stroud. They didn't play Bo Nix. Like there's all these excuses to why they shouldn't be there, but yet they're there, right? So I just want to go over the Pats had, I believe, the 7th easiest strength of schedule rating since 2000, and they had the lowest strength of schedule over the past 20 years. I want to go through those 4 teams and just review what they did and what was the end result. So first, second lowest, 2007 Seahawks. They went 10-6 and finished first in the NFC West, and they lost in the divisional round to the Packers by a score of 42-20. Got blown out. 2010 Chiefs also went 10-6, also first in the AFC West, but they also got blown out by the Ravens in the wild card round 30-7. Next lowest after that, or I guess higher after that, the 2023 Falcons. They went 7-10, which was third, and Arthur Smith was fired at the end of the season after they were outscored 85-34 in those last 2 games. And then the 5th on that list, the 2012 Falcons. They went 13-3. They were the first in their division and the 1 seed, but they lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game by a score of 28-24. None of those teams even sniffed the Super Bowl except the Falcons in 2012, and that was over a decade ago. If teams that had the easiest strength of schedule had a cakewalk to the Super Bowl, all of them would have been in the Super Bowl. You look at the easiest strength of schedule in every single season, by that logic, all of them should be in the Super Bowl, right? And people are saying, well, they had an easy path. They didn't play tough QBs, this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. The NFL, it's any given Sunday. We saw the Raiders go toe-to-toe. They beat this Patriots team, and they're the worst team in the league. They went toe-to-toe with, I think it was the Texans late in the year, who were a divisional round team. There's so much parity in the NFL. You can't look at a schedule and say, oh, they had an easy path. It is never easy in the NFL and in football in general, if we're being honest.
Absolutely. Any thoughts? I mean, I feel like the big comparison that people were making, I mean, the biggest, blemish on the Patriots' path, right, is the AFC Championship game against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos were obviously playing without Bo Nix. They were playing with their backup QB, Jarrett Stidham. But going into that game, people were bringing up the fact that, it's not unheard of for a backup QB to, will a team to the Super Bowl. I mean, Nick Foles himself was tweeting, kind of taking some digs at the Patriots, for what he did in Super Bowl 52. But, I mean, what were your thoughts on the Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there were some games where they got very lucky. Like, for example, the Bengals game, that was the game that Jamar Chase was suspended for spitting at Jalen Ramsey. Do I think the Bengals were going to win that game? No, but it certainly made it easier that one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the NFL, was out. I mean, they don't pick the weather. Like, I'm sure they didn't want to play that messy game in Foxborough against the Texans, or the crazy wind and blizzard that they got in Denver in the AFC Championship game. I mean, they play whoever they play on Sunday, and they made pretty good work out of most of the teams that they played. You know, they don't pick their schedule. Their last season picks their schedule in terms of a lot of the bottom teams that they play, because I believe they finished last in their division last year.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like you were saying, like they were taking care of business. They were blowing teams out. Like the majority of their games were not close. They did what they were supposed to do. Like, so we can look at record and we could look at strength of schedule and say, oh, well, they had it easy. Well, if they had it easy and the games were close, then yeah, you could argue that they shouldn't be there. But they were blowing out the teams they were supposed to blow out, and they were beating teams they honestly weren't even supposed to be beating. And they went 13-4, and now they're in the Super Bowl. Like,
yeah, and I mean they really should have gone 15-2. That Steelers game was awful. My dad was there. He watched that. I think they had 5 turnovers or 5 fumbles, something like that. That was just a little blip in the schedule, but I mean they really should have gone 15-2. Although I don't think that would have helped them at all in the AFC Championship game, considering how much snow there was up northeast during that weekend. So maybe that loss actually did help them out a little bit. But I mean, you're right. They blew out all the teams that they played. Like, unfortunately, Sam, they did blow out the Jets at the end of the year. Yeah, they took care of business.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've taken care of business all the way up to Super Bowl 60. So, Jordan, when we see this team hit the field on Sunday, what they're going to be playing at their best, right? It's not, the schedule questions are, out the window. It's one final game. They have to be playing at the top of their game. And when they are, what does that look like? What, to you, most characterizes this Patriots team?
I think it's just the collection of role players playing really sound fundamental football together is a huge plus for this team. I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty on it, but there were a lot of unexpected gems on this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that came alive at moments of the season and were consistent all year long. I'm going to name a few. Harold Landry. He was a home run signing for them after Sorry Ohm, but kind of was not great after his ACL tear right after he signed his contract. But this year he had a 11.66 pressure rate and a 14.55 true pressure rate against true pass sets in 2025. Before that, he was below 11 and below 12 in 2023. And last year was even worse at just above 7% in 2024 in both categories. Definitely was not the pass rusher he was before he signed that contract, but now it seems like he's gotten back there. Definitely want to touch on K'Lavon Chaisson, who was my dark horse for the Pats all the way back in August to be a breakout player for them. And boy, did he have a strong finish with the Raiders in 2024 and came alive this year as a pass rush specialist for them. 14.48 raw pressure rate and a whopping 17.13 true pass set pressure rate, which is just nuts. So in obvious pass situations, he's getting into the quarterback's vicinity almost a fifth of the time, which is a really, really good rate. A couple more guys to highlight: Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson. Their safety duo was solid this year. Hawkins had a 73.7 passer rating allowed, which is 13th lowest among all safeties. And Craig Woodson allowed 8.81 yards per catch allowed. That was 12th lowest among all safeties. And tying the front end with the back end was another Raider, Robert Spillane. Really, really solid all year long. Just to go over some metrics: 31 stops and TFLs, a 98.3 passer rating allowed, which is solid for a linebacker, and a top 10 grade of 87.3 in the run defense category. Just a really good fundamental defense top to bottom. And that's not considering Carlton Davis, Christian Gonzalez, Milton Williams. I'm sure there's other guys I'm missing on this defense, but those are some of the big names. Like, those are the stars. Those 5 tie it all together and were very good this year and definitely above whatever contracts they got.
And do you feel like a lot of those, these underrated guys, these key pieces of this Patriots team, do you feel like they're coming from the defense because Mike Vrabel, obviously a defensive-minded coach, has really elevated them to that position?
I would say he knows how to use his players, and I think Ohm can attest to that. Like, he's not going to put someone out of position just for the sake of putting out of position. If they're going to do something that their position doesn't require, there's a reason for it, and it's to create a mismatch or find a mismatch in the offense. But the majority of the time, the guys are doing the roles that they were paid for. You see a lot of times guys try to make safeties, these hybrid nickel guys, and they can float over the top, or maybe they drop in as a dime linebacker. Like, no, Vrabel very much, if a guy is very good at one specific thing, he will use them just for that one specific thing. Sure, maybe a handful of times he'll get caught with his pants down and someone will be out of position, but more often than not, those aren't like gut-wrenching plays that kill your defense and kill any momentum you've gained. Like, it doesn't happen that often. If it did, offense would be way more explosive, right? But they don't. And those five guys together, like Harold Landry, good against the run, good against the pass, as a pass rusher. Caleb Vaughn, really good pass rusher at this point in his career. Still not a great run defender. Great. We'll only use him in certain pass situations or when a guy needs a breather. Jalen Hawkins, Craig Woodson, not good in man coverage. Let's play shitload of zone. And that's what they did. Robert Spillane, we don't want to leave him in coverage often, but he can do it because he's got the athleticism to keep up. And let's just have him coming downhill to stuff the run. Let's send him on blitzes. Let's send him on stunts and loop him around. Like, he knows his players so well, and he knows exactly how to deploy them. And that helps bring everyone together and elevate these guys' play and show what they're originally were drafted for. Caleb Vaughn was a first-round draft pick. Like, people don't remember that. Like, he had a horrible time in Jacksonville and now is find his role as a pass rush specialist. And that's becoming a critical need for a lot of NFL teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously Drake May, the offensive X factor. You gave a lot of details into why you think he should be MVP a little bit earlier in this pod, but anything that you might have missed out in your analysis specifically for this game that you wanted to highlight?
I think I don't want to spoil anything because it's going to be like my keys to success point later. I think he's going to have to mitigate pressure a lot more than he's used to. Not that he isn't used to it, but I think the pressure is going to get to him more often than not. He just needs to trust his legs. Last point I'll make. Can you pull up that graphic I have on the share screen right now?
Absolutely.
This is where Drake May outperforms everybody. If you look, so this is just a comparison graph of EPA per play and completion percentage above expected. Look at where he is on the graph versus everybody else. Like, this is efficiency, high volume passing, and tight window accuracy is what Drake May is great at. If he succeeds at least two of those things in this game, the Patriots offense is going to have a good time on that Sunday. But if even one of those things is shaky and another one also falls off, then we'll see what kind of Drake May we're going to get. But if at least two of those things go well, I think this is going to be a very, very good game for Drake May.
Yeah, and that's a very fantastic, graph from rbsdm.com. Some great stats from those guys.
Yeah, running backs don't matter is what they're what that stands for. I don't agree, but their data is great, so I'll give them that.
I mean, we got a running back for our comeback player of the year, so obviously they matter very, very much.
Yes, sir.
Finally, wrapping up talking about the Patriots, I wanted to get your thoughts, here on what this Super Bowl means for the franchise, the New England area, obviously, and then some people just around this team. So obviously, you're a Titans fan, but you live in the New England area. Growing up, they were title town. They've still maintained that, that reputation of title town. Obviously, the Celtics winning their most recent title a couple years back. But aside from this, the obvious fact, right? A win here gives the Patriots their 7th Super Bowl title. That puts them as the franchise with the most, tied with the man, Tom Brady, with 7 Lombardi trophies. But that puts them as a franchise ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers with 7. But outside of that, for you, what would this mean for, the city of Boston, the greater New England area, and this fan base?
Yeah, before I explain some of that, a win would also give them 41 total playoff wins as a franchise, which would be the most in NFL history. Currently, they're tied with the 49ers, I believe. But I mean, it would mean a lot. My whole family is Patriots fans, so I'm kind of the outsider here. Um, but I mean, I think we've seen in the last 5 years since Tom Brady's left. Patriots have, in that window, they were kind of a joke. I mean, Bill Belichick fell flat on his face with Mac Jones. Not to say that Mac Jones was ever going to become great, but he did kind of ruin him in that second year, um, and then shipped him out. He, of course, was, they he was let go on a mutual decision. He's essentially fired. And then last year was a total disaster with Gerard Mayo and I mean, the overall vibes with this team was in the gutter, and a win would, I mean, not even just a win. They're in the Super Bowl when they were projected to be probably in the top 10 of the NFL draft order. So just already, I mean, the vibe around this area is that the Patriots are back and that they have a chance to rip off another one of those runs like we saw early in Tom Brady's career. And a win would just, make all of that conversation throughout the off season go from more of like not to say like a moral victory, but if they lost, but if they win, it'll definitely be the talk of the town, even deep into the summer once baseball season's in full swing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I wanted to ask what this win would mean for a guy like Drake May. And honestly, if I could expand, what would this mean for this current generation of quarterbacks? Could this kind of be maybe what some people would signal to be a potential generational shift? I feel like, this generation of Mahomes and Lamar and Jalen Hurts was kind of just getting started, but, could we be seeing a little bit of an early shift should Drake May win a Super Bowl in his second year in the league?
Yeah, I think we definitely can. I mean, like Lamar and Josh Allen, those guys are just getting passed over. Herbert and Trevor Lawrence, two guys that haven't really had a whole lot of success in the playoffs. They're getting passed over. I think this would put him above Jalen Hurts. I don't think Jalen Hurts is like what Philly fans think he was after their Super Bowl win last year. Um, but I think it sets him up really well for a trajectory the way Patrick Mahomes had. He won MVP in his first full season as a starter, won the Super Bowl in his second full season as a starter there in KC. Um, but it would definitely suck for Bills fans because I mean Josh Allen is I think a top three quarterback in the league and now he's having a Patriots guy win a Super Bowl for him, not named Tom Brady, which would
This was
definitely
supposed to be
suck for him.
this was supposed to be their year. Like
Yeah, they say that every year, but I do believe that this was going to be his year coming into the playoffs, with especially without Mahomes and Lamar and just their path, because no one really saw the Broncos as like an incredibly good one seed. Although I do believe they were definitely gonna have a shot if Bo Nix didn't break his ankle.
Absolutely. That generational question actually, I think, came from kind of the press box pod from the Ringer. I don't know if you guys listen to that, but that was something that really caught my attention this past week. The one caveat I would like to add that I feel like I don't remember if they discussed it or not, but talking about a generational shift, obviously Drake May could spark that with a win, but that's also very contingent on guys in his generation matching that, right? I mean, guys like Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, they also have to catch up. And if not, if, Drake May wins this one, and then we kind of get back into a little bit short bursts of dominance between guys like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, et cetera, it would kind of almost feel like like Magic Johnson's first NBA title, if you know the context around that.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's more of a discussion for the result of this game. I mean, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm hoping the Seahawks win, but staying objective, staying analytical here. Let's get into what this means for another guy on the Patriots team, Stephon Diggs. This is another team for Diggs. He's kind of moved from he was on the Vikings and then the Bills, and now he's kind of finally found a home here in New England. Seems like it's worked out well for him. He's playing in his first Super Bowl. For you guys, I mean, what would a win for the Patriots mean for a guy like Stephon Diggs and his legacy as a wide receiver?
He'll be really, really happy until those court proceedings start.
Yeah.
That's just being honest. But
that's important.
As the player, take away the outside stuff because that's horrible and we won't get into it now, but read into it. It's bad. But for the player in a vacuum, this is really cool. Had an iconic moment with the Vikings. I believe that was when they went on that NFC Championship run before they got thwarted by the Eagles. Makes it a great, great play, an iconic play against the Saints. Moves on, goes to the Bills. They get to the AFC Championship, and then 13 seconds happens. His partner went off that game, and Gabe Davis. Things don't work out there. He goes to the Texans, is playing really well. Texans were great, and then he leaves with an injury. I believe he tore his ACL in that. I think that one I'm right about. Thank you, Owen, for the correction earlier.
You are right about that one.
Yep. And was playing lights out, was outperforming Nico Collins and Tank Dell, which everyone was shocked by that, myself included. And then he comes to New England, and what's supposed to be a reclamation project, he's supposed to get these guys, kind of rallied under his wing, grow a young receiving room, and it ended up being so much more. So I think if you just look at the player, just the impact you've had at any stop you've been at, and now it's finally coming to fruition. And it was when it was unexpected, and this was just supposed to be part of a rebuild, and you're helping the young guys move along. This has got to be a really cool experience for him. Again, from an on-field perspective, I can't say it. I think everyone would kind of, if you were in that situation, you would kind of dream that's the outcome, right? So I think a Super Bowl win for him would make him feel really vindicated about moving on when he moved on from teams and having this kind of drive to want to play with a high-level quarterback, because he played with Kirk Cousins, who was a good quarterback, never high level. Goes to the Bills, played with high-level Josh Allen, but just couldn't put it together at the end. Goes to the Texans, played with C.J. Stroud, who's had flashes, but again, not high level. Then he goes to Drake May, who had an incredibly efficient and effective season, one of the most effective that we've seen in a long time. And now you have a chance to finally go put all that together and say, yep, I'm a Super Bowl winner. I think it'd be awesome for him, the player, if that happened.
Absolutely. And let's get into their opponents, the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks, the 1 seed out of the NFC. That was probably one of the more surprising results of the end of this season, based on what we talked about way back in the preseason. But still, a great run from Seattle. I'm looking at their path, specifically in the postseason, to this game. And my first question for you guys is, divisional round. They take down one of their biggest rivals in the San Francisco 49ers. The NFC Championship, they take down another divisional opponent in the LA Rams. Now they have a chance to take down the team that beat them in the Super Bowl 11 years ago in one of the most heartbreaking ways you can lose a game like that. And then, cap off hoist their second Lombardi trophy as a franchise. If they do that on Sunday, if you're a Seattle fan, is that one of the greatest championship runs you could possibly see as a fan?
I'd say absolutely. And I think even more so given the fact that a lot of people didn't think you'd be here, myself included. And this is with the second-year head coach. Mike Mack has brought this team back to what they were known for in those early 2010s. And honestly, a dynasty was probably stopped in that Super Bowl, because they were very few teams could even compete with them from a physicality standpoint, let alone X's and O's. And now they're kind of back there, and they're playing at an even better rate than what they were in that second Super Bowl season. So I think this would be a huge, huge win for the Seahawks. Just kind of show like, hey, we have supposed to have been here for a decade and shit just went off the rails way too early. Now we're coming back and making it happen with a completely reworked team.
Yeah. Not only was the dynasty stopped in the sense where, yeah, you prevented them from lifting a trophy, but the fallout from that result was pretty effective, I should say, in the Seahawks organization, in the fandom, in the culture of the team, right? Because obviously, boom, immediate instinct. The moment the play ended, right? Everybody watching that on the field, off the field, at home, in the booth was like, the Seahawks should have ran the ball. It's something you still hear. It's like a meme phrase that you still heard 11 years later. And I've seen some debate pop up, actually calling a pass was the right play because the Patriots were actually lined up to stop a run. It was kind of a fluke thing. But then I think Marshawn Lynch later came out at some point and was like, it kind of affected his relationship with Pete Carroll because, he kind of felt like, he should have been given the ball to run. Obviously, Richard Sherman, he eventually left the team, went to their biggest rival, the 49ers. Russell Wilson had that fantastic breakout season in 2020, which then ended up, him moving away from Seattle, going to Denver, and then to Pittsburgh, and then New York. So it's like there were a lot of pieces that were kind of dependent on another title for them to continue success in the 2010s. So it does kind of feel like they've finally picked up the pieces, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in that boat where I do think passing in that given situation was the right call. It wouldn't behoove me, and maybe I'm wrong on this because maybe someone said something about what the play call was, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was one of those double calls where the first call is a pass, and if it looks like you have the numbers for the run, you check and go kill, and you check into the run that a lot of NFL teams do. Wouldn't be shocked if that was the case and Russ saw the loaded box and saw a one-on-one matchup and was like, hey, let's give it a shot. There's a lot of intricacies that go into it that aren't publicized. But to that point, they did have a timeout. It was second down. You can run the ball, hurry up and get a pass off, or call timeout, and then you got 2 plays and you got to make sure your next pass is incomplete, right? Like you could easily make the argument for both. But to your point, even after all that shit faded away, they still found a way to get back here.
Yeah, absolutely. And a very different team from the one that played in Super Bowl 49. So, for you, what has characterized this Seahawks team, on the field?
I think it's been their defense as well as their resilience. I mean, it was the first Rams game in LA. Sam Darnold, I want to say he either had 3 interceptions or 4 total turnovers. Don't quote me on that, but it was something really bad, and the offense played poorly because of it. But the defense kept them in the game. They still lost, but it was around midseason. We were like, oh well, Linsanity run was over, kind of the way it was with the Vikings last year, where he had a great first half and then kind of tailed off towards the end. But the team rallied around him. They stuck with him. I know Ernest Jones, former Titan, one of their linebackers, was supporting him right after that game, telling the media that he's their quarterback. And that second half, that second half fall off didn't really happen the way it did with the Vikings. And he's played very well in the playoffs despite playing through an oblique injury, which for a quarterback is a pretty tough injury to play through.
Absolutely. And Jordan, I mean, obviously Sam Darnold's journey to this game has been pretty unprecedented. I wanted to get, I guess, I saved it for the end for talking about the Patriots, but what would a Super Bowl win for Sam Darnold mean?
Yeah, I mean, He goes from being a 21-year-old third overall draft pick, going to the Jets, finishes his rookie year strong. Things are looking up, and things just go sideways and sideways. You know, not the best offensive play callers in his time there, not the best overall culture while he's there. Moves on, goes to Carolina, competes with the same guy from that same draft class that went before him in Baker Mayfield, competes against him, ends up winning the job. Things don't work out. He goes and learns under Shanahan for a year, and then he gets his chance with the Vikings and does an amazing job, and then falls off the last three weeks of the year and looks like how he did when he was seeing Ghost against the Patriots when he was on the Jets. Okay, they brought in JJ McCarthy. Are they going to develop him? Are they going to get rid of me? Are they going to stick with me? End up shipping him off to Seattle, and now he's got more adversity he needs to overcome. Learn a brand new offense again, build chemistry with new receivers again. We're playing a much harder division now, and now he's got to show up again. And what does he do? He does that. He wasn't as good. His peaks weren't as high as they were last year, but he was way more consistent. He still had his lows, but they were a lot more manageable, and he mitigated a lot more of his mistakes that he usually does. So I think for him to win this game at 28 years old, after being called a bust, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and being replaced by another first-round QB for a 4th time, to finally overcome that and say, I'm worth the money that the Seahawks signed me would be massive, not only for his confidence, but for his legacy. And I think obviously Super Bowl win here, people will think about him a lot differently. And we're probably going to get Sam Darnold top 5 talks because God damn it, we got it with Jalen Hurts. We better get it with Sam Darnold. But even if that doesn't happen, getting there is obviously half the battle. Winning it is what you want. But to turn your career around, even without a Super Bowl win on your resume, is great. Getting that win is going to elevate his status. And I hope he continues to have success and he doesn't regress to how he was early in his career. I don't think he will. He's played way too many games at this point. He's seen everything that could possibly be thrown at him. Now it's time to put it all together and win this game and cement yourself as not a bust, but worth the number 3 overall pick.
Yeah, and we talked about, one guy that he's going to be thrown to, JSN. We kind of talked about him earlier in the night, but let's get into a little bit more detail. How has he excelled on the field? How has he excelled as a target to, specifically complementing Sam Darnold's play style?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you kind of expect from him getting through some of these, these Patriot matchups on Sunday?
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. The Patriots run a lot of cover 3, cover 4, match coverage. And they just suffocate the middle of the field and say, we're going to force you to throw it to the outside. And where JSN succeeds is, you guessed it, over the intermediate middle of the field. If you see him breaking off these big bending routes or big sit routes in the middle of the field or deep post, like that is his bread and butter. So now I would expect they're going to put him in motion a ton. They're going to try to get mismatches. They're going to try to get him one-on-one with a nickel or with a safety. He's going to get a lot of movement. The Seahawks use a lot of motion and trades to begin with. He's going to be heavily involved in that. I want to see them get Rashid Shaheed involved a lot because he can take the top off of defense. And against a team like this, getting someone vertical will help open up someone like JSN. So if he can win in the middle of the field, that's going to be a plus for this team. If he can't, obviously you're playing right into the Patriots' hand. You want to force those outside throws. You want to force those tight window curl routes on the outside. Like, that's what's going to kind of dictate how this game goes from a passing attack standpoint. But I think JSN, if anyone can get it done, it is JSN. Puka, obviously, great contested catcher. JSN he wins in the same way, but opposite. He wins in the middle of the field, but with separation rather than being a big body.
Yeah, absolutely. And then how do you value, a target like Cooper Kupp for this game?
I don't know if you have anything to add about Cooper Kupp or JSN, but the thing I'll add is that he's a veteran savvy receiver. He knows how to win on any short and any intermediate route. He's not the same receiver he was early in his career and when he hit his peak with the Rams when he won the Triple Crown. But he's a guy who's reliable. You can throw to if no one can get open. He's a guy you throw to in a tight window, kind of like Cooper Kupp is right now for the Rams. He's just someone that's reliable, can get the ball into space when you need it. And he'll, we say 3 yards in a cloud of dust for running backs. He's like 7 to 10 yards in a clip and in a target for the Rams in the pass game.
Yeah, and this is Cooper Kupp's 3rd time being in a game like this. How much do you feel like that helps him and helps the Seahawks team on Sunday?
I mean, there's a lot of big game experience, and he was Super Bowl MVP, I believe, the year the Rams won it. And he, of course, had the touchdown catch to seal that game. He may not be the same guy as he once was, but having that experience, having a veteran presence in the wide receiver room, in the offensive meetings, in the team meetings as a whole, I would believe that definitely helps, because that's a guy who not only has he just played in the Super Bowl, he's had a massive impact, a game-changing impact on Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. And then out the backfield, a guy like Kenneth Walker III. Any thoughts on his explosiveness and how he's going to help the Seahawks offense?
Yeah, like Jordan said earlier, the Seahawks aren't incredibly efficient while running the ball, but he was able to get 1,000 yards this year. And I did hate how Zach Charbonnet got a lot of the touchdowns, because I had Kenneth Walker in fantasy. So that really screwed me over. But Charbonnet tore his ACL, and I believe it was the 49ers game in the divisional round. So, of course, he's out. But Kenneth Walker is a very physical running back. He is definitely going to have a tough time against the Patriots run defense, because they are very good, especially with Milton Williams. And I don't think they're going to get too much of a run game going, but if they were able to at least find some sort of consistency with Kenneth Walker, that would help out Darnold and JSN a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about what this game means for Sam Darnold. We've talked about, what a win here means for Cooper Kupp, for the city of Seattle. Obviously, redemption, 2nd Lombardi trophy. Kind of a weird curveball for you guys. Would a win for the Seahawks be an important win for the Harbaugh coaching tree?
I mean, absolutely, you have to say that. But I think it's kind of a double Harbaugh coaching tree, because I believe Mike Mack has that connection to Jim. He obviously was the DC under Harbaugh, and a lot of people, especially Ravens fans, at the end of last season, they wanted Harbaugh to step down or be fired and promote Mike Mack. I'm sure Ravens fans are very, very not happy about that. But Jesse Minor's a probably a little vindicated. Yeah, a little vindicated. But Jesse Minor is a great consolation prize. Do not get it twisted. But obviously, Mike Mack, great culture setter. Obviously, the guys play the physical brand of football that he wants. I think that would be obviously great for the Harbaugh tree in and of itself. And honestly, I didn't even think about it from that angle. But yeah, I would agree. I think that's definitely huge for the Harbaugh coaching tree, because I don't think they really have many other significant coaches in the tree other than Mike Mack and maybe 1 or 2 other guys.
Yeah, not the most important thing, but I just, I felt like that's a little nugget to bring up.
Speaking of little nuggets, I need to add about Kenneth Walker III, and I have a take. Normally I'm not takey, but I do have one. He's a top 5 running back, and he just doesn't get the publicity, and the public doesn't know about it yet. And I just want to go through some efficiency metrics and how he's capitalized on that now that he's been the main running back in the backfield. He's 2nd in yards per missed tackle forced at 0.276. So that means for every 4 carries, he's making someone miss, or he's gaining. For every missed tackle he's forcing, he's getting 0.276 yards. Like, that's a really, really good clip. That should be the other way, missed tackles forced per yards run. He trails only Bijan Robinson. That's the main point I want to make. Bijan is first with 0.3. Kenneth Walker's the next closest. He's 3rd in explosive rush rate at 14.93%, trailing only Blake Corum and Devin Achane in that category. 3rd in PFF rush grade at 90.2, trailing only his teammate Zach Charbonnet and again Devin Achane. He's 6th in yards per route run, receiving backs and receiving capability. We saw it with Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey. We see it with Devin Achane. Those like top running backs we see, he's right up there with them. He's 6th. And then he's 12th in yards per touch at 5.19. If he gets more touches and keeps that efficiency up, I guarantee you more people would say he's a top 5 running back because he's got talent. Now he just needs the opportunity, and he's definitely going to get it next year, whether it's in Seattle or he signs a big deal somewhere else.
Absolutely. And so we've talked about keys to the game for each team. We've talked about what this win means for so many different people on both sides of the ball here. But let's get into, how we think this game's actually going to go down. So, Jordan, we fast forward, right? Fast forward to the end of Sunday night, right? A team has lifted the trophy. A parade's getting scheduled on, either coast. For you, without giving away who you think is going to win, if you were giving a recap for this game, what would you have said about it? What would have characterized this game?
I like the way you word that. On Sunday night, I will be saying this game was won and lost in the trenches. And you can say that about almost any game, but this game specifically. And the Seahawks, they need to find a way to exploit Will Campbell. And I think Will Campbell's a good player. I think he's going to be a high-quality left tackle for a long time in the NFL, even if I think he should move into guard. He is someone who will always be in that top 10 range, but never will break into the top 5 just because of the physical limitations. Here's where the Seahawks need to do some self-scouting and figure out how they're going to exploit Will Campbell. Leonard Williams is an awesome defensive lineman for them. But a shortfall of the Mike Mack defense is that the Rams noticed, depending on where he lined up on 3rd and long or 3rd and mid situations, determined where their stunts were going to go and how they were dictated. The game plan for this, normally the Seahawks got a 39.2 pressure rate over the course of the regular season in true pass set situations. Stafford was pressured on only 30.8. So the Seahawks, just because they didn't self-scout enough, lost a quarter of their pass rush effectiveness because of one thing that you would think is simple, but apparently is complicated, right? So they need to figure out, okay, how do we get stunts more involved to exploit Will Campbell? Because I bet if the Rams saw it, I guarantee you Josh McDaniels is seeing that. Going over to the other side of the ball on Will Campbell, he allowed just 20 pressures in true pass rush situations over the regular season at a 9.26% rate. In the 3 playoff games, he's allowed 9 pressures in those same situations at 19.57% of those snaps. He doubled his pressure allowed rate. That means 1 out of every 5 true pass rush snaps, he's allowing someone to get near the quarterback. That's not going to cut it, especially against a team like the Seahawks. And to help with that, the Seahawks have a huge, deep edge rush rotation. All those players have 45 snaps in the past 2 playoff games. And all of them had 25 true, or they had pressures in true pass rush situations during the regular season. I'm not going to get into all the numbers, but DeMarcus Lawrence, Derek Hall, Uchenna Nwosu, and Boye Mafe, all effective pass rushers. DeMarcus, Derek Hall on the high end of that spectrum. And that's not even including Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams, who we mentioned earlier. They were the only D-tackle pair in the NFL, I think, besides Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, to be top 20 in pressure rate in true pass rush situations and top 20 in run stop rate. And both of them play run technique very soundly. Both of them are very effective pass rushers, and that helps those edge guys get through relatively easily. So I think if I'm Seattle, I am finding a way to exploit Will Campbell as much as possible, especially because he also has a rookie guard right next to him trying to help out. In the trenches, looking at how the Pats need to beat the Seahawks, they need to try to force the Seahawks into 3rd and 7. And they need to stuff the run to do that because the Seahawks love running the ball. I think they have the highest run rate in the league this year. Looking at EPA per play, which is just efficiency, but it's a really good metric to gauge how good a team is in specific situations. The Seahawks EPA per play on 3rd and 7 plus, they are 20th in the league. I believe they're top 5 in all of their situations. They're 20th in the league on 3rd and 7 plus. The Pats are 3rd, just to compare offenses. Seahawks EPA per pass on 3rd and 7 plus, they're the 6th worst in the league. By comparison, the Pats are 2nd highest in the league in that category. So big extrapolation of difference between both those teams. Here's what contributes to that a little bit. Seahawks have the highest run rate on 3rd and 7 plus, which does contribute to lower rate. Runs obviously are not as explosive or as efficient as pass plays, so it's going to drop. But still, even considering that, the 6th worst EPA per pass in those situations is bad. Here's where the Pats can win this game. The Pats are 6th and 9th respectively on 1st and 2nd down when it comes to EPA per rush. They stuff runs on those early downs better than the majority of teams in the NFL. If the Pats want to win this game, they have to stop Kenneth Walker. They have to stop, I believe it's George Halani is going to be the backup for this game. And they're going to have to bow down. And the tough part is that even though their guards aren't the best pass protectors, they are massive human beings in Gray Zabel and Anthony Bradford. And even Christian Haynes, if he has to come in, he's a really good swing guard as well. They're going to have to deal with those two who are good run blockers in the middle of that defense. And they're going to have to find a way to sift through gaps and shoot gaps and blitz different areas of the run scheme in order to exploit some weaknesses along the rest of that offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, you've got a couple little factoids before we get into our picks. So let's hear it.
To paint the picture even more, both these teams missed the playoffs in 2024, obviously, and there was not a ton of hype going into these teams as they entered the season. They ended up as the 1 and 2 seed in the NFC and AFC respectively. Both have defensive-minded head coach named Mike, who are innovative, with innovative offensive play callers, Clint Kubiak and Josh McDaniels. They were the 2 most effective and efficient air attacks in the NFL. Obviously, the Pats were number 1. Seahawks were number 8. They have 2 ferocious defenses. Seahawks are number 1, and the Pats are number 11. Seahawks specifically are number 1 against the run and number 5 against the pass from an efficiency standpoint. Very, very good defense. Both teams are top 3 in points scored, top 4 in points allowed, and they're both top 8 in yards gained and yards allowed also. Here's a really cool final factoid. Both teams lost in week 1. Based on the data that I looked at, instead of just trusting what's on the internet, I went through each year to see how many teams lost week 1 and made the Super Bowl. This is the first time since 1990 at least that both teams lost week 1 and made the Super Bowl. According to a Reddit post and a couple of other posts on Twitter, no team or no Super Bowl has featured 2 teams that both lost week 1. This is the first time that's ever happened in NFL history. I think that's really neat.
Fantastic. Love that. And that's, those are the ones I love, because sometimes, people pull these out and it kind of gets into a little bit of like, Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy. Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln territory, but that's some real good stuff. And finally, let's wrap it up. Let's make some predictions here.
Mm-hmm.
Owen, give me, a quick little tidbit on how you think this game's going to go. Give me your winner, your final score, and your MVP.
All right. So I think one thing for the Patriots that will be tough is I don't think they've played a team that has the offensive skill position players like the Seahawks do. They did play the Bengals, but Jamar Chase was out that game. They did beat a healthy Dolphins team in week 2, but we saw how that team petered out during the middle of the season. I guess you can say the best weapons that they faced was against the Falcons with Drake London and Bijan Robinson, but those guys aren't. I mean, as good as Bijan is, the collective unit of the Falcons is not as good as the Seahawks with JSN, Kupp, Walker, and Rashid Shaheed. So I think that will be a little tough for the Patriots to handle, because they just haven't seen guys like that this year. And my pick, I thought about this a lot because I think this is a very intriguing matchup. There is no clear, winner in my eyes here, but I am going with the Seahawks 27, Patriots 21, and I think Sam Darnold has 2 fourth quarter touchdown passes to seal the MVP for the former Jet.
Love it. Jordan, what you got?
That'd be a great story for Sam Darnold. Gotta say that.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about how this game is going to get won and lost in the trenches For that reason, it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. But the Pats, high-octane offense, to Ohm's point, they haven't really played the skill set guys defensively. And I would even argue for the same on the opposite side. They haven't seen a defense like the Seahawks defense all season long. There's a lot of guys in this. I mean, Tariq Woolen kind of had a resurgence in the middle of this year. Devin Witherspoon, one of the best corners in the league, definitely one of the most physical. Ernest Jones, who you mentioned earlier, was a perfect fit within the scheme. They run a lot of cover 4, a lot of cover 6, a lot of cover 8, which we've talked about multiple times in the show. It's physical football all around. And that's going to be matched by the Pats physically, offensively as well, especially with Ramondre Stevenson, with how he's been running the past few games. I think this game is going to come down to the trenches and an analytic decision in the fourth quarter. I think the Pats are going to be down 24-14 early in the fourth quarter. They're going to 24-13 in the fourth quarter. I think they're going to score a touchdown, and they're going to have to decide to go for 2. Analytics say you go for 2 in the situation and make it just a field goal possession game. I think they miss out on the 2-pointer. They eventually get the ball back, and they come up just short on the goal line. Not in the same way that the Seahawks lost, but I do think some crazy shit's going to happen down near the goal line, probably within the low red zone, and the Seahawks are going to win 24-19 on the legs of Kenneth Walker, MVP. He's getting 25 touches. He's going for over 100 yards. He's getting 2 tutties. I texted my buddies. I'm going to pull up the text. I put up a text to them a few weeks back. I think it was when Sharps got hurt, and this was right before Kenneth Walker started going off that game. Let me see if I can find it. Super Bowl MVP. Let's see if I can find it. But essentially, this was right when Sharps got hurt. I said, I can see the Kenneth Walker or KW3 legacy games now if Sharps is hurt and done for a while. In the NFC Championship, I said he would get 19 touches for 121 yards and 2 TDs. Didn't get the 2 TDs, but had the yardage. And then in the MVP, 22 touches for 159 yards, and I put 1 touchdown. I think he's going to get 2. Give him Super Bowl MVP. The offense is so explosive when he's getting the bulk of the touches. And that's why I have KW3 Truther on my header there for the viewers at home. He's the MVP, ladies and gentlemen. And I think he's plus 800 odds on FanDuel. Go put 10 on it. Put 100 if you want. You're going to win your money. I promise you. I'm not endorsed by FanDuel. Just letting you all know.
Love that. Love to hear that.
Who do you think, Basel? Yeah.
It's tough. But, I kind of want to harken back to my time before House Enterprise. So I joined House Enterprise in 2020. Before that, I was in college. I was at Fordham. I was at the Fordham radio station, WFUV. All-time great college radio station, all-time great sports program. It's created some legends of sports broadcasting. And on a couple of occasions, I had the honor of being one of the hosts of FUV's longest-running sports talk show, One-on-One. In one of those, I pretty much spent 2 hours of the 3-hour show being as high as anyone could be on Sam Darnold. I pretty much spent, as much time as I could talking about how he's going to be the savior of this Jets team. He is the future of the New York Jets. He is going to be one of the next great quarterbacks of this league. I think even at one point we were interviewing a guy mainly to talk about the Giants, and I found some way to weasel Sam Darnold into the conversation. I don't know if you could find that on an archive or anything. I'll try my best to find it, but I think about it a lot. My parents bring it up to me a lot. They like to laugh at me, considering how far the Jets have fallen since that moment, right? They bring it up to me sometimes. Considering where we are, right, going into this weekend, I like to think that I wasn't wrong. I was just a little early. You talk about Greek myth, and you even see it in stuff like Game of Thrones, right? Prophecies always come true, just never in the way that you expect them to be. Even if you try your best to avoid them, they'll always find some way to make it right. And that's why I think Sam Darnold is going to do his best to will the Seahawks against the Patriots, win the Super Bowl MVP after a 28-21 Seahawks victory. So that's what I've got. I was not wrong. I was just a little unclear in how I thought Sam Darnold was going to be great.
The night is dark and full of terrors for the Jets, but the Lord of Light has shined his light upon the Seahawks.
Exactly.
That's the tagline.
Sam Darnold is a Zor Ahai. All right. It doesn't matter if you're winning for the Jets. It just matters if you're beating the Patriots. All right. That's all I can ask for at this point in my life. Okay. So that's what I've got to say. But until then, this has been a fantastic podcast. We hope you are just as excited as we are for the big game this weekend. If you want to keep checking out our fantastic football coverage on House Enterprise, make sure you check out all of the socials that you see on the ticker below. If you are listening to this podcast in audio form only, you'll find links to our socials in the description. Make sure you check out articles on house-enterprise.com. We've got some great stuff for the off season coming up from Ohm, from Jordan, from myself. College basketball is in full force right now, so we've got some great stuff coming from our Road to the Garden crew, our House of College Hoops crew, and pretty much, everybody that we've got going on pumping out great stuff for House Enterprise. Until then, we'll see you for the next time on the Basel Podcast. So for Ohm Brown, Jordan Laube, I'm Sam Basel. This has been the Basel Pod. And we'll see you guys next time.